Woman discovers that her husband is a spy, but what happens next will leave her shocked. Emily's hands trembled as she held the forged passports, the hidden safe's door still ajar. The attic's musty air clung to her skin, dust motes dancing in the thin beam of her flashlight. She'd stumbled upon the safe while organizing, a task meant to distract her from John's latest business trip. Now, reality tilted on its axis. She spread the documents across the worn floorboards, her mind racing. Passports with John's face, but different names. Maps dotted with cryptic symbols. Notes scrawled in a code she couldn't decipher. Emily's throat tightened as she traced a familiar route on one of the maps, the same path John had described for his last conference in Berlin. "Oh, God," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. "Who are you, John?" Emily grabbed her phone, hands shaking as she snapped photos of each document. The flash illuminated the attic in harsh bursts, revealing cobwebs and forgotten relics of their life together. A life built on what? Lies? She forced herself to breathe, to think. Confronting John was out of the question, not until she understood more. Emily carefully replaced each item in the safe, memorizing their exact positions. As she closed the door, a chill ran down her spine. The house suddenly felt alien, full of secrets and shadows. Descending the attic stairs, Emily's mind whirled. She needed help, someone with skills beyond her own. Karen. Her tech-savvy neighbor had always been friendly, maybe too friendly at times, but her expertise could prove invaluable. Emily paced her kitchen, rehearsing her story. A surprise for John. Research help. Nothing suspicious. When she finally worked up the courage to walk next door, her palms were slick with sweat. Karen answered on the second knock, her familiar grin faltering as she took in Emily's drawn face. "Eh? You okay?" "Fine," Emily lied, forcing a smile. I need a favor. It's for John." Inside Karen's cluttered home office, Emily's carefully constructed story unraveled. Karen's sharp eyes zeroed in on the tension in Emily's shoulders, the way her fingers tapped nervously against her thigh. "Spill it," Karen said, leaning back in her chair. "This isn't about a surprise party." Emily hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I found something," she admitted, "and I need your help to figure out what it means." Karen's eyebrows shot up as Emily scrolled through the photos. "Holy shit," she breathed. Are these real?" "I think so," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you, I don't know, decode any of this?" Karen's fingers flew across her keyboard, her expression growing more serious with each passing minute. Emily watched, a knot forming in her stomach as lines of incomprehensible text scrolled across the screen. "This is some heavy-duty encryption," Karen muttered. "But, yeah, I think I can crack it. Give me a few days." Emily nodded, relief warring with a growing sense of dread. "Thank you," she said. "I owe you big time." "You owe me answers when this is done," Karen replied, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Be careful, Em. Whatever this is, it's not small potatoes." The next few days passed in a haze of anxiety and sleepless nights. Emily jumped at every sound, convinced John would somehow materialize and demand answers. She threw herself into work, churning out designs with feverish intensity while her mind spun in circles. On the third day, Karen called. "I've got something," she said, her voice tight. "You need to see this." Emily raced next door, her heart in her throat. Karen's office was a mess of energy drink cans and crumpled papers, her eyes ringed with dark circles. "I managed to decode some of it," Karen said without preamble. This is serious. There's mention of a warehouse, coordinates, something about a drop happening soon." Emily's blood ran cold. "Where?" Karen pointed to a map on her second monitor. "Here. It's not far, maybe an hour's drive. But you can't seriously be thinking of Dash." "I have to," Emily cut her off. "I need to know what John's involved in." Karen's face creased with worry. "At least let me help. I can disable their security cameras, give you a window to get in and out." Emily nodded, gratitude welling up alongside the fear. "Okay, let's do this." The next day was a blur of preparation. Emily sketched out the warehouse layout based on satellite images, marking potential entry points and hiding spots. She practiced moving silently through her house, wincing at every creak of the floorboards. As night fell, Emily donned her makeshift spy gear, black hoodie, gloves, small flashlight. She caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror and barely recognized the determined woman staring back. The drive to the warehouse felt endless. Emily's hands clenched the steering wheel, her mind racing through every possible scenario. By the time she pulled into a shadowy spot near the building, her nerves were frayed to breaking point. Cameras disabled, Karen's voice crackled through the earpiece. "You've got 20 minutes, Max." Emily took a deep breath and slipped out of the car. The warehouse loomed before her, a hulking shape against the starlit sky. She ghosted along the perimeter, finding the side door Karen had unlocked remotely. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of metal and oil. Emily's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing towering shelves and mysterious crates. She moved cautiously, ears straining for any sound of movement. A murmur of voices sent her diving behind a stack of pallets. Emily's heart hammered as footsteps approached, then receded. She peered out, breath catching as she recognized a familiar silhouette. Mike, John's longtime friend and golfing buddy. "The shipment's on schedule," Mike was saying to someone just out of sight. "We'll make the drop at the usual meeting point." Emily's mind reeled. Mike? Involved in this too? She waited until the voices faded before creeping towards a small office at the back of the warehouse. Inside, she found a locked drawer. Emily fumbled with a bobby pin, silently thanking Karen for the impromptu lockpicking lesson. The lock gave way with a soft click. Emily's hands shook as she rifled through the contents, finally pulling out a slim folder. She flipped it open, eyes widening at the details of an upcoming meeting. John's name prominent among the list of attendees. The sudden sound of approaching footsteps sent ice through her veins. Emily scrambled under the desk, clutching the folder to her chest. The door creaked open. "Could have sworn I heard something," Mike's voice muttered. Emily held her breath, willing her thundering heart to quiet. After an agonizing moment, the door closed again. Emily waited, counting to 60 before slowly uncurling from her hiding spot. She tucked the folder into her bag and crept back towards the exit, every shadow now a potential threat. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a physical force. Emily sprinted to her car, adrenaline singing through her veins. It wasn't until she was miles away that she allowed herself to breathe. The implications of what she discovered crashed over her in waves. John's double life, Mike's involvement, the danger they were all in. Emily's mind spun with questions, each more terrifying than the last. As she pulled into her driveway, a grim determination settled over her. She would get to the bottom of this, no matter the cost. Emily touched the folder in her bag, a roadmap to the truth hidden within its pages. The house loomed before her, no longer the sanctuary it had once been. Emily took a deep breath and stepped inside, ready to face whatever came next. Part 2. Emily's fingers hover over the keyboard, her eyes darting between the screen and the front door. John's footsteps echo from the driveway, growing louder. She quickly closes the browser tab filled with suspicious bank transactions and pulls up a half-finished graphic design project. "Hey, honey," John calls out, his voice strained. "Sorry I'm late." "No problem," Emily replies, forcing a smile. "How was work?" John grunts, heading straight for his study. The door clicks shut behind him, followed by the muffled sound of hushed conversation. Emily's heart races. She strains to make out words, catching only fragments. Secure, move fast. The clock ticks away precious minutes as Emily debates her next move. She needs more information, but how far can she push without raising suspicion? Her phone buzzes, a text from Karen. "Still on for book club tonight?" Emily bites her lip. She should go, maintain normalcy. But leaving now means missing a chance to investigate while John's distracted. "Rain check," she types back. "Crazy deadline." John emerges from his study, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've got to head back out. Emergency at the office." "But we have dinner plans with the Millers," Emily protests, searching his face for any sign of deception. "I know," I'm sorry. John grabs his keys. I'll make it up to you. The door slams shut before Emily can respond. She exhales slowly, shoulders sagging with the weight of unspoken words. Sunlight streams through the kitchen window, illuminating specks of dust dancing in the air. Emily stands at the counter, mechanically chopping vegetables for a salad she has no appetite for. Her mind races, replaying the events of the past few days. The sound of the front door opening jolts her from her thoughts. She whirls around, knife still in hand, to find John staring at her with raised eyebrows. "Whoa, easy there," he says, holding up his hands in mock surrender. "Y come in peace." Emily forces a laugh, setting down the knife with trembling fingers. "Sorry, you startled me. I didn't hear you come in." John's eyes narrow slightly. "Everything okay? You seem jumpy lately." "Just stressed about work," Emily lies, turning back to the cutting board. "Big project due next week." She feels John's presence behind her, his hand coming to rest on her shoulder. "You're working too hard. Why don't we go out tonight? Take your mind off things." Emily's stomach twists. "Actually, I'm not feeling great. Maybe we could stay in, watch a movie." John's grip tightens almost imperceptibly. "Sure, whatever you want." As he heads upstairs to change, Emily lets out a shaky breath. She reaches for her phone, typing out a quick message to Karen. "Need to talk. Meet tomorrow?" The attic air is thick with dust and secrets. Emily runs her fingers along the worn spines of old books, searching for any hidden compartments or loose pages. A floorboard creaks beneath her feet, and she freezes, listening intently for any sign that John has heard. Silence. She continues her search, methodically working her way through shelves and boxes. Her hand brushes against something cool and metallic behind a stack of photo albums. Heart pounding, she pulls out a small metal box. The lock gives way easily under the pressure of a bobby pin, a trick Karen taught her. Inside, Emily finds a folded piece of paper covered in an indecipherable series of numbers and symbols. "Emily?" John's voice calls from downstairs. "Where are you?" She quickly replaces the box and scrambles down the attic ladder, nearly losing her footing in her haste. "Up here," she calls back, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just looking for some old photos." John appears at the bottom of the stairs, his expression unreadable. "Find anything interesting?" Emily forces a smile. "Not really. Just a bunch of dusty memories." As she brushes past him, she doesn't notice the passport that's slipped from her pocket, landing silently on the floor behind her. The cursor blinks accusingly on Emily's computer screen. She stares at the half-finished logo design, unable to focus. Her mind keeps drifting back to the coded message hidden in the attic. A notification pops up, another missed deadline. Her boss's words from earlier echo in her head. "Get it together, Emily. We can't afford any more mistakes." She rubs her temples, trying to ward off the headache building behind her eyes. How did her life become this tangled web of secrets and lies? The sound of the garage door opening snaps her back to reality. John's home early. Panic sets in as Emily realizes she left one of the forged passports on the kitchen counter. She races downstairs, heart in her throat, only to find John holding the passport with a puzzled expression. "What's this?" he asks, eyebrow raised. Emily's mind goes blank. It's for a design project. Mock-up for a travel agency." John studies her face for a long moment before shrugging. "Looks pretty realistic. Good job." As he heads upstairs to change, Emily sags against the counter, relief washing over her. That was too close. The flickering light of the fireplace casts long shadows across the living room. Emily runs her fingers along the rough brick, searching for any irregularities. There, a loose brick near the base. She pries it free, revealing a small cavity. Inside, she finds a folded piece of paper covered in the same cryptic symbols as the message from the attic. The front door opens suddenly, and Emily barely has time to shove the paper in her pocket before John walks in. "What are you doing?" he asks, eyeing her suspiciously. Emily plasters on a smile. "Just cleaning." "You wouldn't believe how much dust accumulates behind these bricks." John's gaze lingers on her for a moment too long before he nods. "Right. Well, Don't work too hard. I'm heading to bed. As his footsteps fade upstairs, Emily lets out a shaky breath. She retrieves the paper from her pocket, studying the symbols intently. Whatever John's involved in, it's clear the stakes are higher than she ever imagined. Emily's fingers tremble as she lifts the floorboard in the guest room. The space beneath is empty save for a small metal box. She opens it with bated breath, revealing a sleek, compact handgun. The weight of it in her hand feels wrong, alien. Emily has never held a gun before, never wanted to. But now, faced with the reality of John's secret life, she wonders if she might need it. A floorboard creaks in the hallway. Emily hastily replaces the gun and floorboard, heart pounding. She grabs a duster from her pocket, feigning cleaning as John appears in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" he asks, voice tight with suspicion. Emily forces a laugh. "Spring cleaning. Thought I'd tackle the guest room while I had some free time." John's eyes narrow. "In the middle of the night?" "Couldn't sleep," Emily shrugs, praying he can't hear the tremor in her voice. After a long moment, John nods. "Don't stay up too late. We have that dinner with the Millers tomorrow, remember?" As he retreats down the hallway, Emily sinks to the floor, adrenaline coursing through her veins. How much longer can she keep up this charade? The attic feels different now, charged with an electric tension as Emily carefully moves the painting aside. Behind it, she finds a small safe built into the wall. Her hands shake as she inputs the combination, John's birthday. The lock clicks open, revealing a stack of files. Emily flips through them, her stomach dropping with each page. Aliases, bank accounts, details of covert operations. It's all here, laid out in black and white. A name catches her eye, Operation Nightshade. The file outlines a complex scheme involving high-ranking government officials and millions in offshore accounts. The implications are staggering. This goes far beyond simple espionage. Whatever John's involved in, it's big, dangerous. A creak on the stairs sends Emily into a panic. She shoves the files back into the safe, hastily replacing the painting. John's voice drifts up from below. "Emily? You up there?" She takes a deep breath, steeling herself. "Yeah, just a sec." As she descends the ladder, Emily knows one thing for certain. She's in way over her head. Part 3. Emily's hands tremble as she scrutinizes the coded message for the 1000th time. The dim light of her desk lamp casts long shadows across the room, mirroring the dark circles under her eyes. She hasn't slept in days, the weight of her discoveries pressing down on her like a physical force. Her gaze darts to the clock on the nightstand. 11:23 p.m. Time is slipping away, each second bringing John closer to whatever dangerous plan he's set in motion. Emily's breath catches in her throat as she refocuses on the jumble of letters and numbers before her. "Come on," she mutters, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "There has to be something I'm missing." As if in answer to her plea, a pattern begins to emerge. Emily leans forward, her heart racing. She scribbles furiously on a notepad, her mind working overtime to connect the dots. Suddenly, it clicks. The seemingly random sequence reveals coordinates and a time. Emily's eyes widen as she double-checks her work. An abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Midnight. "Got you," she whispers, a mix of triumph and dread coursing through her veins. Emily springs into action, gathering the documents strewn across the desk. Her hands shake as she pulls open the drawer where she'd hidden the gun she'd found earlier. The weight of it feels wrong in her grip, but she tucks it into her waistband anyway. As she heads for the door, Emily pauses. She can't shake the feeling that this might be her last chance. Grabbing a pen, she scribbles a hasty note to Karen, detailing her discoveries and the meeting location. She seals it in an envelope and leaves it on the kitchen counter, praying it won't be necessary. The drive to the factory is a blur of streetlights and racing thoughts. Emily's knuckles are white on the steering wheel as she follows John's car at a discreet distance. Her mind reels with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The factory looms ahead, a hulking silhouette against the night sky. Emily kills the engine and watches as John's figure disappears into the shadows. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what's to come. The rusted door creaks as Emily slips inside. She navigates through the darkness, her eyes slowly adjusting to the gloom. Voices echo from deeper within the building, guiding her forward. Emily finds a vantage point on an upper level, crouching behind a stack of crates. Below, she sees John surrounded by a group of men. Her breath catches as she recognizes faces from the warehouse. This is bigger than she'd imagined. Phase 2 is a go, one of the men says, his voice carrying in the cavernous space. We move tomorrow night. John nods, his face unreadable. And the target? Confirmed. It'll make quite the statement. Emily's blood runs cold. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. She leans forward, straining to hear more. But her elbow knocks against a piece of metal. The clang reverberates through the factory. Suddenly, all eyes are on her hiding spot. Emily's heart pounds as she realizes she's been made. In a split-second decision, she draws the gun and steps into view. "Don't move," she shouts, her voice steadier than she feels. The men below freeze, their expressions a mix of shock and anger. But it's John's face that catches Emily's attention. He looks resigned, as if he'd been expecting this moment all along. "Emily," he says, his voice calm, "you shouldn't be here." "No kidding," she retorts, keeping the gun trained on the group. "What the hell is going on, John? Who are these people?" One of the men starts to reach for something in his jacket. Emily swings the gun towards him. "I said don't move." John holds up his hands, stepping between Emily and the others. "Everyone stay calm. I can explain." "Explain?" Emily's voice cracks. "Explain how you've been lying to me? How you're involved in whatever this is." "It's not what you think," John insists, taking a step towards her. "Stay back," Emily warns, her finger tightening on the trigger. The tension in the room is palpable. Emily's eyes dart between John and the other men, who look increasingly agitated. She knows she's in over her head, but there's no turning back now. "You have 10 seconds to start talking," she says, fighting to keep her voice steady. John takes a deep breath. "Emily, I'm undercover. This whole operation, everything you've discovered, it's all part of a mission to bring these men down." Emily blinks, her grip on the gun faltering. "What?" "He's lying," one of the other men snarls. "Take her out." Chaos erupts. Two of the men lunge forward, while another reaches for a weapon. John spins into action, his movements a blur as he engages the attackers. Emily's training kicks in. She fires a warning shot into the air, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. "Stop." The fighting pauses momentarily, all eyes on Emily. She's breathing hard, the gun shaking in her hands. "Emily, listen to me," John says urgently. "I've been working with a covert government agency. We've been tracking this organization for months. But your discovery, it's compromised everything." Emily's mind reels. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I couldn't. The less you knew, the safer you were." John's eyes plead with her. "But now we're both in danger. We need to get out of here." As if on cue, the sound of approaching vehicles filters through the night air. The other men exchange panicked looks. "They're here," one of them hisses. John curses under his breath. "Emily, we have to go. Now." Emily hesitates, her world tilting on its axis. Everything she thought she knew has been turned upside down. But as she looks into John's eyes, she sees the man she married, the man she trusts with her life. She lowers the gun. "Okay." John grabs her hand, pulling her towards a side exit. Behind them, shouting and the sound of boots on concrete echo through the factory. As they burst into the cool night air, Emily's mind races with questions. But one thing is clear. Their lives will never be the same again. They sprint towards Emily's car, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. John slides into the driver's seat, gunning the engine before Emily's door is fully closed. As they peel away from the factory, tires squealing, Emily turns to John. "What happens now?" John's jaw is set, his eyes focused on the road ahead. "Now, we run. And we pray we can stay one step ahead of them." Emily nods, her heart pounding. She doesn't know what the future holds, but she knows one thing for certain. They're in this together, for better or worse. The car disappears into the night, leaving behind the shattered remains of their old life and racing towards an uncertain future. Part 4. Emily's heart hammers against her ribcage as she peers through a gap in the curtains. Headlights pierce the darkness, creeping closer to their suburban home. She turns to John, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're here." John nods grimly, his jaw set. "We don't have much time. Remember what I told you about the passages?" Emily nods, her mind racing. Just days ago, her biggest worry was meeting client deadlines. Now, she's preparing to flee from dangerous criminals. She grabs a backpack, shoving in the files they've gathered, evidence of John's undercover work and the organization he's been investigating. John moves with practiced efficiency, barricading the front door with a heavy bookcase. "We'll use the back exit. Stay low and don't make a sound." As they work, Emily's mind flashes to the moment she discovered John's hidden safe, setting this whole ordeal in motion. The initial shock and betrayal have given way to a grim determination. She may not fully understand John's world, but she's committed to seeing this through. A muffled crash echoes from outside. Emily flinches. "They're breaking in." John grabs her hand, leading her to a hidden panel in the hallway. "This way," he whispers, sliding it open to reveal a narrow passage. They slip inside just as the sound of splintering wood fills the air. The villains have breached the front door. Emily's breath catches in her throat as footsteps thunder through their living room. The passage is pitch black and claustrophobic. Emily trails her hand along the rough wall, following John's lead. Her other hand grips the concealed weapon John insisted she carry, its weight unfamiliar and terrifying. "Check upstairs," a gruff voice orders from somewhere in the house. Emily freezes, but John tugs her forward. They can't afford to hesitate. The passage twists and turns, leading them through the skeleton of their home. Emily's designers I had always appreciated the house's quirks, never suspecting they masked a network of secret routes. After what feels like an eternity, they reach a narrow staircase. John whispers, "We're heading to the attic." There's an exit that leads to the backyard. As they ascend, Emily hears muffled curses and the sound of furniture being overturned. The villains are tearing the house apart, searching for them and any evidence they might have left behind. The attic is musty and filled with shadows. John moves to a section of wall that looks no different from the rest. With practiced ease, he triggers a hidden mechanism. A portion of the wall swings outward, revealing the night sky. "Ladies first," John says with a wry smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Emily hesitates for a split second before easing herself through the opening. The cool night air hits her face as she carefully navigates the sloped roof. John follows, closing the secret door behind them. They make their way to the edge of the roof, where a sturdy trellis offers a path to the ground. Emily's hands shake as she grips the wooden lattice, but she forces herself to climb down. Her feet touch grass, and she allows herself a small sigh of relief. John lands beside her, immediately scanning their surroundings. "We need to move. Karen's house is our best bet." They sprint across the backyard, keeping low and sticking to the shadows. Emily's lungs burn, but fear propels her forward. They reach the wooden fence separating their property from Karen's. John gives her a boost, and Emily scrambles over, wincing as a splinter catches her palm. She helps John up, and soon they're racing across Karen's meticulously maintained lawn. They reach the back door, and Emily raps urgently against the glass. Seconds stretch into an eternity before a light flicks on. Karen appears, her eyes widening at the sight of them. "Emily? What's going?" She stops short, taking in their disheveled appearance and the wild look in their eyes. "Get in quickly." Once inside, Emily collapses onto a kitchen chair, her legs trembling with leftover adrenaline. John remains standing, peering out the window. "Karen, we need your help," Emily says, her voice hoarse. "It's a long story, but we need to contact the authorities." Securely. Karen's brow furrows, but she nods. "Give me a minute to set things up." As Karen busies herself with her computer equipment, Emily turns to John. The weight of everything that's happened crashes over her. "John, He kneels beside her, taking her hands in his. "I know, Em. I'm so sorry for keeping you in the dark. I thought I was protecting you." But Emily squeezes his hands. "We'll talk about it later. Right now, we need to focus. Karen returns, her laptop open. Okay, I've got a secure line set up. Who exactly are we contacting? John takes over, inputting a series of codes that connect them to his handlers. What follows is a flurry of activity as John and Emily relay everything they know about the organization. Key players, hideouts, operations. Emily watches John as he speaks, seeing him in a new light. The man she married is still there, but now she sees the steel beneath the surface, the years of training and dedication that have shaped him. As they finish their debrief, a wave of exhaustion washes over Emily. The adrenaline is fading, leaving her drained. Karen offers them her guest room, insisting they stay until everything is sorted out. Later, as they lie in the unfamiliar bed, Emily turns to John. "Tell me everything," she says softly. "No more secrets." John takes a deep breath and begins to speak. He tells her about his recruitment, the years of training, the deep cover operation that led him to this point. Emily listens, her emotions swinging between anger at being kept in the dark and awe at the sacrifices John has made. "I wanted to tell you so many times," John says, his voice thick with emotion. "But I was afraid. Afraid of putting you in danger. Afraid you'd look at me differently." Emily reaches out, cupping his face. "I'm looking at you now, John. Really looking. And I see a man who's dedicated his life to protecting others. It doesn't erase the hurt, but I understand." John leans into her touch. "I promise, no more secrets. Whatever comes next, we face it together." They fall into a fitful sleep, both physically and emotionally exhausted. When morning comes, they wake to news that the authorities have successfully raided multiple locations, dismantling a significant portion of the criminal network. As the days pass, they begin to settle back into a semblance of normalcy. They return to their house, now cleared by the authorities, and begin the process of putting their lives back together. It's during this time that Emily makes one final discovery. While reorganizing John's study, she notices a slight unevenness in the wooden paneling. Curious, she investigates and finds a small, hidden compartment. Inside is a yellowed envelope containing a handwritten note. As Emily reads it, her eyes widen. The note, penned by the house's former owner, hints at a deeper layer of espionage stretching back decades. She finds John in the kitchen and wordlessly hands him the note. He reads it, his expression growing more concerned with each line. "Well," Emily says, a wry smile tugging at her lips, "I guess we both need to be better at hiding things." John looks up, meeting her gaze. For a moment, the weight of everything they've been through hangs between them. Then, unexpectedly, he chuckles. The sound breaks the tension, and soon they're both laughing, the absurdity of their situation finally hitting home. As their laughter subsides, Emily leans against the kitchen counter, eyeing the note in John's hand. "So, what do we do with this?" John considers for a moment, then smiles, a genuine, warm smile that reaches his eyes. "What do you say we solve this mystery together?" Emily grins back, feeling a flutter of excitement. Their lives may never be entirely normal, but facing the unknown side by side, that's an adventure she's ready for. Thank you for watching, and if you like this story, make sure to like and subscribe.